Hi, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Today I'm here with Shayla Egan, an emotional, spiritual, and temporal preparedness connoisseur. Shayla, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
We're super excited to have you here. Your platform is amazing. I love how you talk about the different aspects of our life and how to really prepare for them. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit more about how you got started. What made you want to do this?
Oh, I could probably talk forever on this. There's so much to preparedness. A lot of the time people, when they think preparedness, they think doomsday, I guess you could say. And when really there's so much more to preparedness than bunkers and backpacks and burying your food. It's connecting with God and being prepared for life and for the next life. And so when I first started, it was when I was little. It was kind of embedded in me, and I had wonderful parents who loved Jesus Christ. They were very devoted Christians, and my mom always did fun activities where it'd be Monday, family home evening nights, and there was one time she took us out, and she's like, okay, there's a fire in the house. You need to go grab 3 things out of the house. And it was kind of like a test to see what we would go grab. And, of course, I grabbed some, like, candy and my favorite stuffed animals and all these toys and brought them back out. And my oldest brother, was the only one that actually grabbed his 72-hour kit, a blanket, and, like, a flashlight. And my mom was like, okay. She sat us down and was like, okay, so what do you think we're going to need more in an emergency? And so she made it a lot of fun. And so when I got older, I got married. I have 4 beautiful daughters. And I remembered we moved away, and I thought, okay, I can't use that excuse anymore to be like, okay, if something crazy happens, I'll just go to my mom's and dad's house, because they're the ones that have all of the food storage. And it kind of got an impression of to start with 72-hour kits. And especially in the areas we were living in, we are prone to earthquakes. And so I was like, okay, I'll start with 72-hour kits. But I didn't know where to start. When during that time, there wasn't Instagram, there was Facebook, but the big thing was blogging. And so I would start looking on blogging accounts to see what people were doing, but everyone was doing everything so differently. And so I started to test things out. And I was like, okay, this person grabbed a can of beans and put it in their 72-hour kits, and this person grabbed more of like granola bars. Like what would work better? And I was able to figure these things out as time went on. And then in 2019, I received a prompting. We just moved back to Utah with my husband's new job, and I received a prompting to go to the store and get a lot of food. And my husband kind of looked at me and was like, what, honey?
Yeah.
Going, oh, okay, like you do this. And I remember grabbing cleaning supplies, medicine, and food. And I have this picture of my daughter in the cart, and it's just this huge cart full of food. And it was like 2 weeks, and the world shut down. And right then I knew it was a prompting from the Spirit saying you needed to prepare. And so right then I was like, okay, I needed to figure this out more with food, because I grabbed like SpaghettiOs. We don't eat SpaghettiOs. Like I was grabbing certain things we didn't really need. And so like I said, it was a learning process. I was trying to learn what was good, what was not good. And then in 2021, I was home with my girls that we were listening to a general conference. Now is the time for you and I to prepare for the second coming. And he asked how our spiritual foundation was. And my soul woke up. I've always had a connection with Jesus Christ. I was always doing the right things. But this was different. It's time to wake up. God needs you. And I remember thinking, where have I been? I've been kind of stuck in this world where, I'm raising my kids and I'm doing everything right, but where were my priorities? And I realized that I was doing things right, but I wasn't focusing on Christ enough in my life. I was having all these distractions. And so the first thing I did was actually read a book, and it was called Considering the Cross by John Hilton. And that book changed my life. And I'm so grateful for him for that, because it helped me grow a relationship with Jesus Christ through his atoning sacrifice. And so that's when I started to involve spiritual preparedness with temporal preparedness. And I'm telling you, it's a night and day difference, because I'm not scared when I prepare. If you are prepared, you shall not fear. And it's so right. When you involve God in preparedness, everything is better. Everything is different, because you know who wins in the end. And when you do everything right here on earth, it makes things better. And knowing when loved ones pass away, or if you pass away, that you did everything you could and everything right. So that's what kind of brought me into the temporal and spiritual preparedness. And I've always been a big runner, so mental preparedness goes along with the physical. And I've had a lot of amazing experiences with running and involving God with that. I remember seeing things online, and I was kind of upset. There were some things people were posting, and I think I was like, this isn't right, what people are posting about. It's political, church, all of that. And so I saw a friend, her name is Becky Squire, and Sarah Phelps. They're these amazing content creators on Instagram. And they're just like, we need more content creators. We need people to share goodness. And I turned to my husband and I was like, maybe I'll do that. And he's like, yeah, go do that. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was kind of taken back, because I'm that person. I don't like to cause contention, and we're kind of like the middle type people where we try to keep the peace. And so I was afraid if I started sharing online, people were going to not like me or get mad at me. And I had to think, okay, but what's the most important? And it was Jesus Christ and standing up for good. And I was like, okay, well, I need something more than just church and spiritual related. I need something else. And then I remembered how much I loved prepping. And I remembered back in 2018 how it was so hard for me to find any information about prepping. And I was like, well, I'll just share my knowledge about preparedness and then bring in spiritual preparedness as well. And so I started my page, and I was just surprised. It just skyrocketed. People just loved how I incorporated preparedness with the spiritual aspect in it. And so it's been a really fun journey.
I feel like it's something you can't separate, because they're one and the same.
Yes.
If all things to know there is a God, then if something happens, God will be with you through those things. So I guess there's a lot to dissect in what you just said.
Yeah.
Jumping into preparedness, spiritually, emotionally, temporally, what, in an essence, are you preparing for?
So main preparedness, like the physical aspect of it, is you are preparing for hard times for here on earth. So it's like the fires that you're seeing in California, it's tornadoes and hurricanes, but then it's also job loss. I've heard a lot of people, even a lot of my followers, that message me and say, my husband lost his job, and I'm so happy that I follow you, because I decided to build food storage, and they had to live off that food storage for a year, because there was, the job industry it's hard. And it's that, but it's also loss of a spouse, a loved one, a child, and preparing for the hardships of life. And so that's the physical aspect, is just preparing for that hardship. And then there's the spiritual aspect of the preparedness. And what I like about the spiritual is it's you trying to gain a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I try to teach people, how do you gain a relationship with Jesus Christ? And it's attending church, it's service, and attending the temple, journaling. I am very big into journaling. Have you heard of prayer journaling before?
I haven't, no.
It changed my life. My friend, Kelsey Oldroyd, she's amazing, and her husband passed away from cancer in 2023. And she talks about how she saw miracles in her life from prayer journaling. And what you do is, in your journal, you write down your thought, you write down a question, and one of her story, which I loved and I have shared, but she talked about how she's going through this cancer journey with her husband. Her husband's in and out of the hospital. She has 4 little boys. Things are chaotic. And she opens up her journal and she writes down, I hate doing laundry. That's all she put. She's like, it was just my feeling at the time. She closed it up, kind of forgot about it. And a few days go by, and she got a call from a neighbor. And they said, I have been praying for your family, and I just have the feeling I need to come fold your laundry. And she's like, oh, I don't want anyone in my house. Like, it's dirty. I'm gone all the time. And this neighbor is like, no, I need to do this for you. And she said, because of this woman, she and her kids were able to have clean clothes while her husband was going through this cancer treatment. And she's like, and it wasn't until a few weeks later when she opened that book back up that she's like, oh my gosh, God listens. So writing things down and the spiritual journaling, it helps you connect with God more. And sometimes, so you can write down a question and you can sit and wait, writing down your feelings. That's how you receive revelation. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty amazing how you can gain your spiritual connection with God and through the veil and with angels and loved ones through, spiritual journeying.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like that concept in itself is so beautiful because it's almost like a documentation of your conversation with God.
Yeah. And sometimes we forget. I feel like I've gone through a few things, and then I'm like, oh, this is such an incredible experience, and then we forget. And so having these things written down, it's kind of nice to go back and be like, oh yeah, this happened. Yeah. I had this experience. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It makes you wonder, how many times has God answered my prayers and I don't know that he did?
Yeah, I know. I've shared this story before, but I remember it's in a book I just written for the Not So Secret Lives of Real Mormon Wives. And I talk about the numbers 1, 2, 3. And it's a number that I saw constantly. And I never thought of numbers before. And I was like, do people see numbers? And I remember trying to research it. And at the time, I was trying to find out who I was going to run the Boston Marathon for. And this girl was sharing Goodness Online, Kelsey. And she was sharing her husband's cancer journey. And I decided to go with him. And after he passed away about 3 weeks later after I ran the marathon. And at his funeral, his brother was giving a talk. And he said when they were kids, they were big, tough boys. They were really tough. And so they said that they didn't want to tell each other, I love you. Because, it's the bro thing.
Boys don't do that.
So they do a code. They had a code. And the code was 1, 2, 3. So every time they went to bed, they would say 1, 2, 3, which means I love you. And when I heard that, my jaw dropped because that was the number I was seeing. And I knew that it was angels on the other side letting me know that it was always him that I was supposed to run the Boston Marathon for. And it just kind of made a completion. And so every time I tell people I love you, I'll do 1, 2, 3. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because it means I love you, and it makes me feel closer to Brian.
Numbers are something that are just so deeply embedded into doctrine. Mm-hmm. The 7 days of creation, the 3 members of the Godhead. I think it's very interesting when you look at, I'm sure you're familiar with, when you look at Hebrew, each number has, a physical meaning, and it also has the numerical meaning.
Yeah. I know a lot of my friends see the 111, which is, there was, this happened recently where my daughter, she's spunky 4-year-old, but she sleeps through the night a lot. And she came and woke me up, and I looked at my phone and it said 444. I think it was 333. It was 3 a.m., but it was 333. And I thought, girlfriend, you got to get to bed. Like, why are you coming to wake me up? And so I put her to bed and then didn't think much of it. And then later that day I was running and I called my husband and I said, hey, I know you're passing by. I have a jacket. It's really hot. Can I throw it in your car? And he's like, sure. So he drives by. I pause my watch. I give him my jacket. And when I look at my watch, it said 3303. So it was another 333. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I should look up, I think it was like DNC 333. And I was like, no, I'm overthinking it. I'm not going to look at it. And so I kept running. I get home and I turn on a church podcast. And this lady opens up and she goes, we're going to open the scriptures to DNC 333. And I was like, okay, I get it. So I opened it up, and sure enough, it was exactly what I prayed for the night before. I mean, wow. I asked a specific question, and I was like, I need an answer to this. And it was exactly what I needed to hear. And I was like, okay, it's just, I think the veil is so thin. And are we listening? Are we paying attention? Because sometimes we'll pray and we'll say, oh, our answers aren't, I keep praying for this and I'm not getting an answer. And sometimes, it is that way, but are we listening? Are we taking the time to pray about it, look at our surroundings, and see what God is answering for us?
I love that. Like you've said, God is so intertwined into the details of our lives. And if you're not actively looking for it, you're always going to miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I love about your, the idea of that prayer journal is that it's documented. And something I've noticed in my life is if I want a specific answer, then I have to ask a specific question and I have to continually go after that specific item or the specific thing in my life that I need, because I think all too often we approach life in, far too general terms where it's like, please bless that my family will be okay and that I'll have food on my table. But it's like, are you asking for exactly what you need? Yeah. And I feel like that kind of intertwines with being prepared. Like, you have to know what you're preparing for.
Yeah, we need to be prepared and have the Holy Spirit with us, but we need to be living our lives and the way we're supposed to get that connection. The adversary never stops attacking, so we can never stop preparing. So we should always be preparing physically and spiritually because, like you said, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right? You can't have one without the other.
I want to dive into a little bit more of that book that you wrote. Tell us a little bit more about this. I think Secret Lives of Mormon Wives was trending #1 on Hulu. Yeah. There's a lot of eyes on the quote-unquote Mormon church. Tell me more about this book.
Well, I'm so grateful for the show to even come out and share a light about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because we're kind of a mystery, right? Like, people don't know a lot about us and they're interested in our beliefs. And so I'm so grateful that this topic has even been brought up and had this, light shared. And so I remember watching it and I kept thinking, I don't know, we don't do that. Or
that's not quite right.
That's not quite right. And I know it's kind of the Hollywood thing and they're just trying to create drama. And so Cedar Fort reached out to me and said, hey, so we're thinking about this book, and it's a book about members of the church who have a relationship with Jesus Christ and want to represent or truly, represent him and what we really believe in. And it was amazing. And I got to meet all these wonderful women that are in the book, and they come from different places in the world. They have these stories, how they about their upbringings and how they found Christ and how they incorporate it into their daily lives. Like, one of them's Fernanda Bohm, and she's a huge fashion designer, and she talks about how she incorporates her business and her job and having God in there with her.
That's beautiful.
There's another woman, her name's Allison, and she goes through a lot of abuse in Taiwan, and how she found, she saw missionaries, and she called them the sun, the light, And she never forgot that. And she was able to find God in Taiwan, even through hardship. And so it's uplifting stories. It's not stories about, the TV series. It's more about members of the church and how we connect with Jesus Christ.
What is, do you feel like, I'm sure there's hundreds of examples, but what is a key moment in that book that you feel like has had an impact on a lot of readers?
I think a lot of people can relate to hardship. Life is not easy at all. And what is amazing is that I think people can relate to these women that are, being bullied in school. They can relate to family. They can relate to divorce. They can relate to, just one of my friends she has a son that has Down syndrome, and so yes, we all live different lives, but there's one thing we all have in common, and it's a love for God. It's a love for Christ. And so that's what I really love about the book, and what people can really connect to is like, oh, these women are actually, they're normal. They're not, having all this drama. They're actually just trying to live their lives and, but also involve Christ in the life. And we're not crazy and weird,
Yeah.
We're just happy moms. A lot of us are just happy moms, just trying to do our day-to-day best. But what I love about the book is that all our stories are so different. I'm from Utah. I grew up in Utah. I've always been a member of the church, and I've loved that, and I'm so grateful for that. But there's other women that are converts. There's other women that have grown up outside of the church and were able to find their way to God. So they're just beautiful, and I think a lot of people can relate with that.
I love how you talk about life is hard, but it's all different. Mm-hmm. I think oftentimes we compare our trials to other people. Yeah. And I can't remember who said it, but there's this quote that I've always loved, and it talks about how the trials that we experience here in life is perfectly equitable with what we're able to endure.
Yes.
And so it's not equal. What you go through is not what I'm going to go through, but God knows how much you can handle, and He knows how much I can handle, and He'll give us the amount that will help us grow through that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful concept that we're all different. We're all going to go through hard times, but, the core common denominator is that He's walking right beside us.
Oh, absolutely. It's so interesting because I study a lot of the atonement and what Christ went through His last day, here on earth. And no matter what trial I have gone through, I feel like I have been able to relate to every single thing He went through. Like, people talk about bullying or having a family member who has left a certain faith or has different political views or something, and there's fighting, and they're like, I feel betrayed. And I'm like, well, what happened with Christ with His apostle? He was betrayed, with Judas. And then there was Peter, who denied Him 3 times. There's people who loved Him, but still He was able to hang on that cross. There's just multiple ways, like even my daughter, there's been a few times she needs to be wrapped up in bubble wrap because she's always getting injured. She's my little crazy one. But there's been a few times where we've almost lost her. She's been falsely, they told her that she had cancer, which she didn't, but that's what they thought at the time. And just going through those trials as a mother, it was so hard. And I remember the scripture where it was just telling me to yoke myself to Christ, and He will lift our burdens. And I just remember one night praying, and I'm telling you, I felt like I just told Him, I was like, I'm giving this burden to You. And I have never felt so much peace when I did that. And then it wasn't until 2 weeks later where they were able to tell us it was not cancer. But being able to know that Christ has felt all that, and any experience, like you said, hardship, everyone's experienced hardship, losing a loved one, sickness, job loss, all of it, Christ has felt it. And so we all can relate to that, which is amazing.
When you look at your platform and you go scroll through the comments, there's a lot of people, with an opposing view. And I would imagine that it's sometimes difficult to, do what you do and to stand for truth and what you believe in. So the question that I ask you is, why do you do what you do? Why choose to stay? Why choose to stand with Jesus Christ?
Well, I feel like I said before, I feel like I was called to do this. And it's interesting enough, I just got even a message this morning, from a wonderful woman who is no longer a member of our church. But she thanked me that I did what I did with preparedness. And she's like, just because I'm not part of your faith, she's like, I'm still able to grow a relationship through Jesus Christ by the things that you are teaching. And so that in itself really helped me. And she said then she talked about her preparedness, how they were out, their power was out for 5 days because of these storms that are happening right now. And she goes, because of you, I gained the knowledge of emergency preparedness, and I was able to, help my neighbors and do this. And so she's like, thank you. And so I kind of feel like I'm helping save lives, spiritually and physically. I mean, it's not just me, it's people taking the initiative to wanting to prepare. I am a very bubbly, positive person. And so if someone's just negative, I either just ignore it or I just say, okay, I respect your view, and I'm just move on, and that's fine. But it's interesting, my page, I have gotten a lot of people message me not being a part of our faith, that thanking me about preparedness, spiritually and temporally. And so it's been a really cool experience. My page is global, and so I even had a wonderful person message me in Ireland who was preparing and thanking me for preparedness. I had a person in Sweden who got baptized.
How cool.
She sent me a picture, and she goes, what was amazing, what caught my attention was that there was a post, and it was getting pretty nasty comments on it. And she goes, but what got me, she goes, wasn't those nasty comments, it was how you replied to those comments. Wow. And she goes, they were nasty, they were saying physical mean things about you. And she's like, but you turn it around and you wrote something kind. And she goes, and I felt something, and like the Spirit. And so she's like, I didn't even know about members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So she's like, I actually looked up the missionaries. Wow. And then she's baptized. So I don't give myself credit for that. She had to do the work. But I feel humbled that I'm the one that did that helped her with that journey. And so just having people find Jesus Christ through my page, but also prepare, I think it's a blessing in my life.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What an amazing story of just like throwing out what you do and the impact that it has because of, what you represent. That's beautiful. There's something that we love to do here. We represent 200 plus artists. We're an art publisher, and every single person has a different depiction of who Jesus Christ is to them. Mm-hmm. And we've got this campaign called Find Your Jesus that we do. And we don't view ourselves as, home decor specialists. Our goal is to provide art that has an impact on your life. Mm-hmm. And when you look at all those different pieces of Jesus Christ, it's very easy to look at someone and be like, that one, that's my Jesus. Mm-hmm. What does your Jesus look like? Who is he like? When you view art, has there been something specific that you've seen that stood out to you where you look and you go, that is my Jesus?
There's a few. To be honest, some people might disagree, but for me, I absolutely love the pictures of him in Golgotha. I love the pictures of him in Gethsemane because, like the book that I read, Considering the Cross, you learn about what Christ physically went through. So we've been learning about the spiritual, right? We learn about how he shed the blood for all our sins. And John Hilton went to Jerusalem and did a ton of research of how things were done and how he would have felt. It brings a whole new aspect to the atonement of Jesus Christ. And so just learning that when he was hung on the cross, the cross was only 6 feet tall. And so he talks about how being only 6 feet tall, he was face to face with his mother Mary, and going through that and having that intimate moment, that just gives you body chills, knowing that he's going through this physical pain and his mother is right there. So those type of pictures,
Wow.
it just makes me want to be better, because I'm sure he closed his eyes and saw my face and he said, she's worth it. She is worth it. And I'm pretty sure he does that with everyone. And, Satan was probably right there just saying, hey, it's too hard. It's too hard. Get off. And Christ was like, no, they're worth it. I'm going to stay on here. And so I loved the depiction of that, and having that extra knowledge, knowing what Christ went through. I love those pictures. Another one is I love him in nature. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences in the mountains. I think everyone loves the outdoors.
I think there's a reason that prophets of old went to the mountains.
Yes. And they had to climb the mountain. It's hard work, right? And my husband and he loves to go hunting, and we love to be in the mountains here in Utah. We have the most beautiful mountains, and especially in the fall. It is just, the colors are just changing, and it's so beautiful. And we've had these very special moments up in the mountains where we've really connected with Christ. And so that's another paintings that I love, is him being out in nature.
What a beautiful way to end the podcast, Shayla. I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been so fun to have you. If you use code podcast20, you can receive 20% off any picture of art, or work with you to pick your favorites so we can kind of show off, what Shayla likes. But overall, that was an amazing conversation with you, and I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.